Good afternoon, Habs fans. Welcome back to the Habs Tonight channel. My name is Annik, and I'm joined with Marco and Damen. Welcome to the pregame show, you guys. Habs versus Dallas. How are we feeling?
Feeling good? Definitely
Okay.
going to be a fun one tonight. I just got that feeling.
That's good. Yeah,
Right.
I'm feeling hopeful because for once we're coming up against a team who's actually on a bit of a losing streak as well. Dallas have lost their past two. One of them, they got 7 goals put on them against Florida, and that's the last game that Jake Ottinger played too, and he was confirmed starting today for Dallas. So maybe I think that if the Habs get a lot of shots off early, because in that game they let up 40 against Florida, and I think 30 the last game against the Lightning. So I think if the Habs get going early, if they don't look for that perfect opportunity and they just really get the shots off and test the goalie early, maybe we could pot in a few and take advantage from the game from there on.
Fingers crossed. I mean, at this point, it's kind of like a broken record. I feel like we're repeating the same thing every single game. But I want to touch on this comment earlier. Yes, reverse the curse. I am purposely wearing a retro because why the hell not at this point? I mean, you know. Um, So this morning we got news that both Cole Caufield and Yoel Armia are placed on the COVID protocol and have tested positive. I mean, Armia, third time, absolutely insane for this guy. So no release on the lineup as well. So what are you guys thinking for lineup changes tonight?
Definitely think to keep the top two lines the same for the most part. The first two lines, in my opinion, had good chemistry last game, but the thing is the bottom six lines are definitely going to have to need a bit of juggling with Armia and Caufield since they're playing in the bottom six. They're definitely going to have to make some moves, such as the one thing that I was really upset with Dominic Ducharme doing is removing the Pez dispenser, Mike Pizzetta from the lineup. We need to put him back in. I
Yeah.
could see him playing on either the third or fourth line. I'm looking forward to seeing him back tonight, and also because he plays with that flair and energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think I'm comfortable with either line. For example, like right now, our third line is Dolphin, Caulfield, and Paling, but with Caulfield out, it could easily
Yeah.
be Pez on the third line. So that's kind of the way I look at it right now. And then the fourth line, we of course have. Why is my mind blanking here? Okay, yeah.
On the
The
fourth line?
fourth line. Oh yeah, Evans and Lehkonen,
Lecky.
and
Yeah.
then yeah, Evans and Lehkonen, and then maybe I know we're gonna talk about him a bit later on, but for the sake of it, I'd love to just call up Alex Belzile again and put him with those guys.
He did clear waivers this morning, so we've got that little bit of news that came out of
Mm-hmm.
everything that came out this morning. I mean, I think it slipped through the cracks. But how do we feel about Alex Belzil, though? There's been, I don't know, should he? Is he an NHL player? Is he an AHL player? Where do you guys see him in the future? Is he just a call up, like Damon said, to fill in the gaps here and there, or does he have his spot permanently on the lineup? Marco, what do you think?
I don't quite know if he's NHL ready yet. I think he does need some more time to develop, and I think that's part of the reason why the Rocket picked him up back on the team so that he could get that experience there. And then I think his role moving down the forward later this season and in the near futures for the coming seasons, I do think he is kind of like a plug-in player where you really play like in case you need some guys, which this season we really have needed bodies. So I definitely think for Belzil, I think he'll continue to stay with the Rocket, develop his game there, and when the time comes to play with the Habs, he'll be there when we need him, and hopefully better than this season with the experience that he'll get down there.
Yeah, well
Damon,
said,
care to
Marco. Like
comment?
the thing is, I think with Belzile is that he's a hard worker. Like he started his career in the ECHL, worked up to the AHL, and then eventually now he's eventually gotten to the role of call up in the NHL. And we were, of course, remember in 2020 when we had the bubble play, he was on that fourth line with Armia and Evans, and he did a really good job on that fourth line, creating a lot of scoring chances, and even got his first playoff point before he got his first NHL point. So yeah, I really like Belzile, but the way I see him right now is he's more of a call up player, and I do think that he will continue to be that in Montreal. Like I could see him maybe being an NHL player in another roster, let's say like Arizona. It's kind of ironic saying that even though we lost to them yesterday, but if he was on Arizona, he could probably be a fourth line player there. But with Montreal, with our depth, and when we're fully healthy, I see him being more of a call up guy that we call up whenever there's injuries.
Agreed.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Um, Wanted to touch as well. So we sent down Raphael Harvey Pinard yesterday, as well as Fairbrother and Ianen. So would you take either of them on the lineup right now?
Yeah, I definitely take Jesse Alonen. Like I'm a big fan of Jesse Alonen. He reminds me a bit of Ovechkin, but less dynamic and doesn't have as great of a shot as Ovechkin, of course, as I'm sure we know. He kind of cemented that spot over in Finland that Ovechkin cemented here in North America and wherever he's played. But I love him on the power play, and also I find he's good in the forecheck. So I definitely cement him on the spot, and I could easily see him next year getting a full-time spot with the Montreal Canadiens, and I do think he deserves it. He's worked really hard, in my opinion, and he's definitely a top line player in Laval, so he definitely is ready, in my opinion, for an NHL spot.
100%. I think that of all the young guys that have played with us this season who have gotten the opportunity to show themselves, I think that Vedemo really made a case for himself and really did solidify that lineup, not just as a plug-in player like Belzil or anybody, but he's someone who makes a difference when he's in the lineup. He's been one of the bright spots for the young guys this season. And yeah, I would definitely plug him in the lineup next season on the third or fourth line, depending on what happens, what kind of moves happen in the near future. I mean, we just got a new GM today, so now that's all open for discussion. One thing I did want to ask you guys though is, with Caufield obviously being put in COVID protocol, him being on that first power play unit last game, that spot's got to be taken. For me, I would put Ryan Poehling there, but I want to get your guys' opinions on who would you guys plug in that spot.
100% Ryan Poehling. Talk about a guy who had a terrible training camp, goes down to Laval, comes back up, and he's been working his butt off ever since he's back. So I feel he's earned it. And we talked about this on the reaction show a little bit this morning. I think Damen, you're the one who mentioned it, of guys who deserve to be somewhere aren't getting the ice time right now. So you got Romanov, who's never playing in overtime. Why? Who knows? Ryan Poehling should be getting a shot as well. But on the power play, I absolutely see him as our guy right now.
I completely agree. I want to see him move up to that first unit. I think he'll do well in that first unit, which of course opens up another spot in the second unit, which we like to go with the one defenseman, typically quarterbacking everything. And if we don't do that, I would love to see the Pez dispenser on the second unit, or if not, Alexander Romanov, because Romanov has a lethal shot and he's not afraid to throw the body. So I definitely would really like to see him more out there. And also the Pez dispenser always creating havoc in front of the net. And I remembered against Boston, he drew Bergeron into taking a dumb penalty. So that was definitely something that was really, really fun to see. So I definitely love to see him on the power play creating havoc in front of the net the same way Gallagher usually does. And then just, of course, just being a pain in the ass to the other teams, pardon my language. But yeah, he will be a real pain in the rear end to the other teams in the front of the net.
Agreed. I think Poehling.
Go ahead, sorry.
Poehling. Oh no, I was just gonna say Poehling. Obviously, I said it before. He's my front runner option, but we do have some other options. If it's not Poehling, we have, of course, Evans, and we have also the Picklicker now, who he scored last game. Maybe he's already on the second unit. Maybe he might get some first unit time today, depending on the Habs feel. But yeah, that's open for discussion. And talking about the power play again, that's something we really got to look out for this game. We can't afford to give away any stupid penalties. The Dallas Stars rank 6th in power play in the league, so can't be giving them any freebies. They do rank bottom 10, just like we do in penalty kills, so we'll take the opportunities. But I definitely don't think, if we want a chance to win, that we should be giving them any freebies tonight or any sort of power play time whatsoever, because they could really get it going. They really click on that. One advantage, obviously, Jason Robertson out of the lineup tonight. He's still suffering with his injuries, so that's one part of that unit that's a little bit diminished, but still, that's something we can't be giving away.
Yeah, we need to be a lot more disciplined when we're on the ice. I mean, there's some weak calls that aren't going in our favor. That's 100%. We know that. But other types of calls, like last night, you saw Mike Hoffman just slashing for absolutely no, like, just calls that are unnecessary, so we can't afford to be doing that anymore. Jake Evans, we talked about him this morning. Talk about a guy who has an incredible season. If we want to talk about how shit the Habs season is, he's a little breath of fresh air within it. He deserves the top two line minutes right now, the way he's playing. Nobody's noticing, but especially when you watch him live, he's all over the ice. He's a mini Brendan Gallagher. He's exciting to watch. So I would love to see Jake Evans maybe get some time. But as you said, Romanov as well would be absolutely amazing to see. Romanov hitting everything that moves. He's second in the league for the most hits, threw down 8 hits yesterday as well. So exciting player to watch. Absolutely amazing. One thing I want to touch on is, since we're talking about power plays and getting people in front of the net, let's talk about this. Seems to be the case every single game. So if we cause traffic in front of a net, we will get a disallowed goal. So our little warrior, Brandon Gallagher, yesterday just throwing down some shade on Twitter saying a disallowed goal versus Carolina and one versus Arizona. What's the difference? You know, he's asking for a friend. So are we expecting a fine from the NHL towards Brandon Gallagher? 1, and 2, what needs to change for the NHL to finally notice that the Habs are 0-11 when it comes to coaches' challenge or disallowed goals? What is going on?
I'd not be surprised if they throw him a fine. Like, anyone who says moves their mouth, essentially, in my opinion, if it goes against what the NHL typically has in store, they get a big fine. Like, in my opinion, Brendan Gallagher is just asking a legitimate question here, and if he gets fined, it's going to look really bad in the NHL, in my opinion, more than it will on Brendan Gallagher. Because Brendan Gallagher, in my opinion, just bringing up a valid point that there's a big issue in the game, especially with goaltender interference and officiating. And I remembered Claude Julien. I remembered last time we played Dallas before the pandemic. I remembered in 2020 when Dean Morton said to Gallagher, "Hey, you go F yourself." We remembered that Claude Julien made some comments after the game, and he got fined after he made comments about the officials. So
yeah,
I definitely think that there's probably going to be a fine here. But I can tell you this: if I were to get fined for that, that'd be money well spent. But
100%.
I definitely think that the NHL needs to have more accountability so the officials have more to lose.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I think there should be a strike system, because I do know in the KHL, they have more accountability. If the referee does not do well, they'll send them down. Like the NHL, they make a mistake, like they should go down to the AHL. Like, it kind of works the same way with the KHL. They make mistakes in the KHL, go VHL, go down even lower Russian leagues. Like, same things with other sports. Officials make mistakes, they get sent down, but in the NHL, they don't do that. And Gary Bettman still thinks they're the best in North America. Like, I can tell you, there's so many other sports with much better officials, and they get disciplined, and they know that they have to make the right call. But in the NHL, it feels like, oh, just do whatever you want. Like, call the goalie interference the way you want it. It's the real issue is that the goalie interference, to me, has always been goalie interference. Whether like goalie interference, like there's so many different ways that a goalie could get interfered. Like, if it's the attacking player, like the goal interferes with the goalie, I've seen plays where that doesn't get called goalie interference, and then when the defending player pushes his own man into the goalie, and that gets allowed. And yeah, I just to me, it kind of bothers me, and I just really think that a lot more accountability needs to come out of the NHL's front office for the way that goalie interference has been going on for the past decade.
100%. And kudos really to Brendan Gallagher. Real veteran move for calling it out for exactly what it is, right? He didn't sugarcoat it. I don't think he'll get fined because he very clearly said he's asking for a friend, right? So I don't think there could be any damage towards his part. But no, seriously, he hit it right on the nose. He was saying what's on all of our fans' mind, and he really brought forward this issue because obviously if it's a bunch of NHL fans complaining about this, especially the majority of them being Habs fans, to the NHLs and the reffing department, obviously no one's going to listen. But if the players start making their case, obviously it makes it a little bit more credible of a case for the NHL to look at. And maybe they'll be like, oh, maybe there's some stuff we should be looking at here. But no, I think the main issue with the rules is that there's no consistency with it, because we see stuff, especially for goaltender interference, being allowed for some games, and the majority with the Habs games being disallowed. I'm not saying there's any bias towards the Habs or anything, but when you look at different games going on in the league, it's very hard to say that. Well, it's very easy to say that there's no consistency with any of the calls being made. So I definitely think that's something that needs to be addressed. I brought this up in multiple post games, but I think the NHL refs should write a written statement for every game factoring call. That way, We know everything that's going on in their mind in that moment of time, and then the NHL could look at it to determine whether or not it's justified. You know what I mean? But at least then we could see exactly what refs are thinking, so we can see if it's a problem with the rule system or if it's a problem with the individual refs.
Yeah, I think Derek has said it countless times on cans and pre-games too, that the refs should be held accountable doing a post-game presser, explaining themselves to everybody. Why did they make the call? Did they see something that we didn't? So something that's probably never going to happen, but it's a pipe dream. We can only wish. I had something in mind that I was going to say, and it just slipped my mind. Keep going. It's going to come back.
I'm just going to say, like, I think those conferences would be entertaining to watch, especially as fans, because the referees will actually be owning up to what they've did. Like, just imagine the outcry of what would have happened if game 4 versus Vegas, if Chris Lee was forced to do a post game and Dan O'Rourke. Just imagine the bad PR to the NHL that night. That would have been a fun one to watch. I'm just going to say.
I would like to know what the bullshit excuse was. I'm all here for it.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on something that I saw pretty funny. You guys remember the Chris Lee who represented Canada at the Olympics?
Yeah.
I remembered he posted on social media right after Game 4, said, "This is me, Chris Lee, the Olympic bronze medalist for Canada, not this Chris Lee. I'm having too many Habs fans attacking me on social media because they think I'm this Chris Lee."
Absolutely insane. Poor guy sharing the same name.
Yeah.
Poor guy sharing the same name.
Yeah.
Pardon my dogs at the back. Next thing that I want to touch on is who's going to be between the pipes tonight. So yesterday we had Caden Primo that started the game, was quickly replaced by Samuel Montembeault. So question for you guys, I guess, would be, with Jake Allen being out, who is your starter? Is it Samuel Montembeault? Is it Caden Primo? What's going through your heads?
I think for me, it's definitely Sammy Montembeault, just because from the games, everything I've noticed with the games that I've watched, I think that Sammy's really kept us in the game when we needed to, and he's just been a lot more remarkable than Primo has. And I mean, Price has in the past bailed us out of so many games because of the remarkability factor that he carries as a player. And I see that more personally with Montembeault than I do with Primo. I do think he's a very good goalie, but I think that when we've needed someone there to keep us in those tight games, especially recently against the Blackhawks, I think that Montembeault is our guy for that. And that's why I think he will get the start tonight, especially considering the fact that Primo's pulled for him the other night. I definitely do think that the team has a lot more confidence with Montembeault in the lineup. They think they could win more with him and that they could bail him out of situations when they need him to. So that's my pick for the backup when Allen's not there for sure.
I completely agree. I think Montembeault's a great goalie. Like, in my opinion, he should easily be an NHL backup. But we, of course, know that Florida had to place him on waivers due to Spencer Knight and Sergei Bobrovsky being the top two goalies there. But I definitely think it's kind of his net right now with the current injuries. And then you could easily play Primo. Like, you don't want to, the way I look at it is kind of like baking, because like a prospect, you kind of like want to bake him properly or develop him properly. But I don't want Primo to play too much. I mean, at least in the NHL level, I just don't want him to go on a crazy, just ride out the rest of the season with Primo, because I think that'll be a bit of an effect on his confidence if the team's not playing well in front of him. So yeah. I think you could put in Primo the odd game, but have him mainly playing in his games in Laval. But I think Montembeault is right now the guy that you have start the rest of the season if, at least until Allen comes back.
Yeah, well, again, this comment here says it all. It's no disrespect to Caden Primo, but yesterday he just wasn't making the key saves that he should have made. It was a little bit wonky, but if you're taking a look at his past few games that he played, 2 or 3 other ones, he was actually pretty solid. So is it the lack of experience? Is it the confidence? He's just, again, in our opinions, not ready to be a starter or even a starting backup for the time being. So I do agree that Samuel Montembeault should be the go-to for now. At least he keeps us in the games, makes those big saves. So it's going to be interesting to see what Dominique Ducharme goes with tonight. He's got a lot of decisions to make, and I don't know. We'll see come game time, I guess, because there's still nothing released right now. I just remembered what I wanted to ask you guys. Shane and I talked about this on Autour de la Ligue, our French podcast yesterday, and we were asking the fans, when it comes to goal reviewing or any sort of thing, the war room is in Toronto. Should it be located into a non-biased city like, I don't know, Houston, somewhere where there's no hockey team and there's no discussion afterwards of, is Toronto making the right calls? Should the war room be relocated is my question.
That's a good
Well,
question for me.
yeah.
I don't mind it being in a hockey city personally, but I don't want it to be in a hockey city where maybe that team that's in the hockey city can get influenced by the decision in that game. For example, like the Toronto, like from the Montreal Chicago game, we know they made the call from Toronto, and we can clearly know that Toronto in our minds kind of got the wrong call there, as I'm sure we know that the play, to me, like from every angle I've seen it, it doesn't look onside whatsoever. So I do think that's definitely an interesting idea. Like I remember Shane said none of it. That'd be a good way to create jobs up there. That'd be nice. Just watching
Yeah.
hockey and knowing the rules. Fun thing to do. I had to tell you that. Like I actually kind of like that idea, but Houston, we have a problem. I like that comment there.
That's funny.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think there's been so many poor decisions that were made out of the Toronto War Room. Whether or not you bring up the bias with the War Room actually being located in Toronto, where there's an original six team and a fierce rivalry with the Canadiens, and us being on the short end of the stick for a lot of the calls. I just think that it comes down to performance at the end of the day, and I don't think that they're really on the ball with a lot of them. So, I mean, maybe it's the team up there, but if you do want to get rid of some bias, I mean, obviously as Habs fans, it's not a real pleasure for us to see it. All the decisions that influence our games being held at the location of our biggest rivals. So maybe somewhere up there in the territories where there's absolutely no bias, create some jobs over there. I'm all for it. Or an American city like Houston or wherever where there's no like given hockey team that was located. Maybe if the Kraken didn't have the team, it could have been in Seattle, but really anywhere in the States, there's a lot of options when it comes to that. So I don't know. I think you gotta. I wouldn't mind if it'd be relocated, but they just got to do a better job doing what they're doing first and foremost, I think.
100%. We're going to keep this one short here. So before we log off, I don't know if you guys kept this going when I was away here, but you want to give a few predictions for tonight's game? Any scoring predictions, goal predictions, something?
I'm willing to give one for the fun of it. I guess I know Caufield hasn't scored yet, but I'll say this: Caufield gets 2 assists tonight. I mean,
Caufield's
what am
got
I
COVID.
saying, Caufield? I meant to say Paling.
He might score on
Yeah.
NHL 22, but that's about it.
Yeah, NHL 22 in his quarantine room,
Yep.
playing the controller.
Why not?
That's the only goals he's getting tonight.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely think Paling for me, I think will step up, and I'm really excited to see what Paling will do tonight. I have a really good feeling about Paling tonight, so I definitely think Paling will get maybe 2 assists, or if not, I'd love to see Zooks get back on the scoreboard. But
Yeah.
I noticed like a lot of people have been saying Suzuki hasn't been good this season. But here's the thing: people have to realize that a lot of teams are matching up their top lines against Suzuki, forcing him to essentially play defense. So I definitely think Suzuki is definitely kind of due to get some points tonight. So it'd be fun to see Suzuki and Paling get some points.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I don't know why. I got a feeling. I'm definitely. I'm feeling the Kulak Hattie, Shane. No,
Shane.
just kidding.
If that
Bring it to
happens, you're going to be a rich man, Shane.
Yeah, and bring it to the books, buddy. But no, I definitely think that the Habs right now, with everything going on in the organization with the new GM, I think now the players know, okay, like this is something positive for the organization. Let's really give the fans something to worry about. Let's give them the first win of 2022. And I don't know, I'm feeling it tonight. I think the Stars are a little bit rusty. They've lost their last 2 straight. We played yesterday. Yesterday, we kind of had our wake-up call, I think. And I think that the team will be a lot more mentally prepared and ready to go. And I think they'll just really want to give to the fans, especially tonight. So my score prediction for today is 3-2 for Montreal, hopefully, in regular time. And I'm feeling 1 power play goal. I don't know who the goal scorers would be, but I'm feeling a power play goal. And a 3-2 win for Les Canadiens.
I like that. Some Habsitivity this afternoon.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm going to go with Josh Anderson tonight.
He's due.
Got a feeling. He's due. He's still he left December 2nd with the most points or goals, and he comes back and he's still in the lead. So I don't know. Got a power horse feeling tonight. He's going to get on the board, and I'm saying 4-2 Montreal. Yesterday I was way off. I said 5-3, and I think it was the opposite. I forgot to mention for the Habs. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe a first win tonight. We'll see. I like this comment here. Would love to see that. I'm really liking his game. He's played. I know he's only played 2 games, but really liking what he's bringing to the table right now, and he's got a lot of potential for sure.
He's been very noticeable in the lineup for sure, and I'm excited to see what he could do today. If he steps up in that power play 1 role, definitely excited for that. But no, I really like what we've been seeing from the Pitlicker so far. I hope he could keep it up.
Same here.
Here's to hoping. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us for the pregame show tonight, this afternoon, I should say. Don't forget to subscribe, to get your merch, habstonight.net. Crazy hats. We got some crazy stuff coming out soon too. So again, subscribe, like, share, and have a good evening. Enjoy the game, and go Habs go. Boys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Cheers.